75 million years ago, Xenu, the ruler of the Galactic Confederation, kidnapped billions of his people. He brought them to the planet Tigiak, which is also known as Earth, and he put them next to the volcano, and he killed them. This released their thetans, or what we know as souls. This is what Scientologists believe.
Now, out of you folks here today, how many of you have heard of Scientology by a raise of your hand? Now, have you heard anything about Scientology, or just that there's a religion, Scientology? Like you, we knew that about Scientology, but we had nothing about the inner workings or any of the history of Scientology, so we've put the research in and we've brought that here for you to share with you today.
My name is Tim Alvis, this is my brother Tyler Alvis, and like he said, we have researched this topic extensively because we just find it so interesting. We will tell you about L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of the church, his early life, and how Scientology actually became a church.
We also discussed things like the beliefs of Scientology and how Scientology is perceived today.
L. Ron Hubbard was born in 1911. He was a very adventurous, smart young man. He was reading Shakespeare at a very young age. He was also so adventurous that he went out and he found indigenous Blackfoot Indians. He talked to them and they told him his legends. He became so good friends with them that they made him an honorary blood brother, which is very sacred to the Indians. Also, by the age of 13, he became the youngest person to get the Eagle Scout. This is a picture of him in his Eagle Scout uniform. He met with the President of the United States to talk to him about it.
After he became an Eagle Scout, he also went to the University of George Washington University, and there he enrolled in classes like mathematics and also one of the first classes in atomic and molecular phenomena. These classes were the fuel that he had for researching into his research about the Scientology and the things that go into Scientology.
According to Marco Franceschi from the University of Mainz, Germany, L. Ron wrote fictional stories that covered many genres such as science fiction, adventure fiction, romance, mystery. He wrote all of these stories. He wrote so many of them that he ended up trying to put them into getting published, and eventually the magazine Thrilling Adventure published his stories. Many people today think that Scientology might be fake because he's wrote all these science fiction stories. Who's to say that he just hasn't written this religion with his science history? But we're not talking about whether it's a legitimate reason, religion or not. We're here to tell you about the history of Scientology.
Now we're going to go ahead and talk about his research and things that have gone into the religion, like Dianetics. He wrote the Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, in 1950. According to Russell Miller, who wrote Barefaced Messiah, The True Story of L. Ron Hubbard, he said that in the year 1949, he'd begin research about things that can help with psychology and curing the tension inside of us, the nervous tension. And he had wrote down that the research in his book he wanted to call The Science of the Mind, or The Dark Sword Excalibur, which is a little close to a name of a book like you'd expect about adventure.
We also have the cover of the book that he wrote for Dianetics, that he wrote with the help of a researcher called Dr. Joseph Winter. He helped him make this theory called Dianetics. His publisher told Dr. Winter that L. Ron has cured every patient he worked with. He has cured ulcers, arthritis, and asthma. The brain records experiences in everyone's life. According to Hubbard, these experiences are trapped inside of us called engrams. Using the theory of Dianetics and using an e-meter, which we also have a picture of, you can find where these dark past experiences are, relive these experiences, and this will make them go away and clear up your body and make you feel better about yourself. Once you have cleared all of the engrams in your body, you're supposed to be called clear, which means that you have a higher IQ now, your reading functionality is better, and you have a perfect memory. It is also said to cure pure eyesight and the common cold.
Now we're going to go ahead and talk about L. Ron's the book Dianetics itself and the science that kind of goes into those things. And at this point in time, he had sold around 55,000 copies of his book, Dianetics. And according to Miller, the Book of Dianetics' also audited courses were extremely well, but they were quite expensive. They weren't cheap at all. They also included, Hubbard was known to withdraw a lot of money at random times, which was really fishy, including money around $90,000, which is around $550,000 today. People began to doubt the process of Dianetics when a presentation failed that L. Ron Hubbard conducted himself. He brought on a person who was supposed to be clear, and they performed memory tests, such as showing L. Ron the color of his tie, and then later on, while his back was turned, having her to respond the color of that tie. But the problem is that she failed the test, and many people started to doubt the study of Dianetics. She forgot the color of his tie, and she forgot some other things along through the test, like an equation for physics. This had people starting to doubt, and 6,000 people were in attendance, and like wildfire, it spread that Dianetics might not be what everyone thought it was. At this point, Dianetics has started running out of money, and because of these failed experiments and things, and he was also attacked by the FDA about using these e-meters, which were the meters who ran the Dianetic tests, were used as illegal forms of medication, and so they raided and stole around 100 items from his research and his job, and at the end, he was allowed to keep researching and using these e-meters, but he had to put a disclaimer that they were a religious item, not a medical. And this is where L. Ron started to create the Church of Scientology. According to Gordon Melton, who wrote the Encyclopedia Handbook of Cults in America, in 1953, Hubbard proposed that Scientology should be transformed into a religion instead of just the study of Dianetics. He said that he wanted to do this because it had many legal and financial benefits, which is kind of fishy. He opened 3 churches in Camden, New Jersey in 1954, and a year later, people started opening up. They opened up a Scientology church in California as well. Later, Hubbard had stepped down as chairman of the church, and he wanted to focus on his research. And during his research, he had founded the Sea Org, which was a ship-based vessel in the ocean researching new things of Scientology. And we'll talk about the Sea Org later when we discuss the levels of the religion. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about the beliefs of Scientology now. According to Scientology.org, the church had a system of how you would receive information called the OT levels, or operating fee. To travel up in the levels of OT, you need to have been in the church for a certain amount of years, and also to pay a fee. I believe from the first OT level to the second OT level, you need to pay around $2,500. But this isn't public information, so it's kind of hard to figure out exactly what price you need to pay. And at O3, that's where you learn about Xenu, the man we discussed in the beginning of our speech. This is where you learn about him and the studies of how we came to be with the Thetans, and the Thetans of what they are. And Thetans are spirits, and spirits who don't have bodies are called body Thetans, and they are attracted to us who are Thetans. And body Thetans are the result of all bad feelings and distress, and this is why e-meters are important, so we can get rid of those feelings. So the highest OT level is it's level 8. It's the highest in the church, and to get there it's pretty expensive. You need to have been in the church for a very long time and pay a lot of money. And another step to become OT 8 is you need to go onto one of L. Ron's ship in the Sea Org and learn through that way. At this state, you're supposed to have been so clear and so perfectly open and free that you should have more powers, and that it's kind of dangerous at this point, and you need to sign a waiver saying that the Church of Scientology isn't liable for anything that happens to you. Now we're going to talk about Scientology today, the beliefs they have, the controversies, and all that fun stuff. The church has taken some questionable actions against some people who are openly against the church. They've done things like burning down the church, burning down people's homes, but that's not proven that it was Scientology, but that's what the evidence is pointing towards. and they've attacked some federal agents who have done some research into Scientology. And the reason why they do this is something Hubbard called the fair game policy. If they're going to attack the church, then they had fair game to go and attack them.
They also attacked people within the church. A woman named Harriet Baker, we have a picture of her here. The church found out that she had a debt-free house completely paid off. So they pressured her in to putting a $45,000 mortgage on her house. And they used that money for more audits and more e-meters for people trying to enter the church and for people who are already in the church. Her kids came to her and told her, "Mom, something's not right. This isn't how it's supposed to go." And because of this, she realized that something wasn't right. She demanded her money back, but she never got a refund of it.
And sadly, she ended up losing her home, and that's quite unfortunate. Some famous people today who are in the Church of Scientology include Tom Cruise and John Travolta. And there was some controversy when Tom Cruise broke up with his wife, Katie Holmes. And some people were concerned that it was because of Scientology that had driven her away, and they were scared that Scientology was going to come after her after they had a divorce. But Katie Holmes had assured everyone that the church was being fine and everything was nice.
So, in conclusion, now that we've discussed everything in L. Ron Hubbard's life, how Dianetics became a church, the struggles that it went through, and what it is today, we now know what Scientology is. L. Ron, he was a science fiction writer who branched out, studied, and then started to study the mind, the body, and he came up with a theory of his own that we have thetans in ourselves, and by dispelling the bad thetans and our past experiences, we can become a better version of ourselves.
Today there's around 25,000 people in the church, and though maybe their beliefs in Xenu, of those who do believe in Xenu, might be a little outlandish for some, what all Scientologists believe in is to clear yourself of all the bad things that are with you and to be a good person. We have to ask ourselves, is that so bad?
Thank you for watching and sitting through our speech.